Okay, so here's the red dress that I bought in the I Saw It First haul. It's a maxi dress. It wasn't the length that I had a problem with. I didn't actually like the waist of it. So what I've done, and I did it off camera, excuse me, did it off camera, I took the elastic from the waist. Now, that elastic was holding the waist and the skirt together, as you can see there. So now what I've got to do is pin all the way around and then sew that up. Now what I'm hoping is that I get some sort of baby doll style dress, but of course the top and the skirt are different sizes and the skirt is slightly larger. So what I'm going to have to do is just put a little gather in on the skirt. It won't be much, it will be a tiny little gather, and then they will be the same size. Then I can sew them together. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just getting the seams, both seams, and I'm just going to pop a pin in those there. Now what I've got to do is distribute the rest so that they fit, but as you can see the skirt is quite a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a needle and thread and do a very, very slight gather so that that all fits together. Okay, so I've just threaded my needle and I'm going to do a very loose gather along the top of the skirt. Now it's not going to be a lot, so I'm just going to do a very loose gather along here, nice and easy. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. This is my way of doing it, and you know, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong. If it works, then it's right, however you do it. And we all find our own little ways of doing things. I mean, there's some certain things that you do have to do by the book, but with this, I think a simple gather is just going to be the right thing to do. So I'm just going to gather along the edge here and then I will come back to you. Okay, so I've gathered right up to the other end up here, and I'm just going to pull the thread ever so slightly and just gather that in. There we go, until I think it's going to be approximately the same as the bodice of the dress, and then when I get there I'm going to pin that and come back to you. Okay, so I'm going to start pinning now because I think I've probably gathered that as even as I'm going to get it, and I do think the lengths are roughly the same, so I'm just probably going to start pinning from the middle. I can find some pins, there we go, and just pin that. There we go, along there. Now I'm doing this in 2 halves. It's just the way that I find the best. Put the pins in there, yeah, that looks about right, so I'm quite pleased with that. Sometimes it feels a bit cat-handed doing it on camera, but yeah, I think there we go. One more pin and I'd say that's about enough. So I'm going to do the other side exactly the same, and then we'll be ready to take it to the machine. Okay, so I've pinned all the way around my dress. That's the skirt and the bodice, right sides together with the little gather. So I'm now going to use my overlocker because it's just going to be the quickest and the easiest, and just go round and sew them both together. And hopefully, maybe with just a little press afterwards, they will be absolutely fine. All right, so I'm just going to do that and I will show you. just literally coming to the end, and I've gone all the way around the dress. Take that off. There we are. So there's the stitching, and I'm just going to remove the tacking stitches. So I've just tried the dress on, really pleased with it. It's so much better without that elastic. Now I think, thinking about it, I think if you haven't got so much of a bigger bust, I think that would be really flattering. But for me, with a bigger bust, I think the elasticated waist just emphasises it, and it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. So this is more of a baby doll style. Yeah, it's all worked really well. The two are sewn together now. But what I have decided is just to take in slightly on the waist either side. So I shall come down and taper from the seam. I shall go down and taper it back out again, just to give it a bit more of a waistline. And yeah, then it will be finished, and I'm really pleased I did it. So I've got my tape measure, and it's a little bit of guesswork, but I suppose I've been doing it a few years. So I'm going to go with 7 centimeters, and I'm going to start by putting a pin in here. So I know that's 7. And then I'm going to take that down and sew it to about... See, normally I must admit I just do it. I think 1.5 centimeters in. I'm going to go about there, I think. Just check that so I can get it right. Yep. And then down the other side, I'm going to do the 7 centimeters. Just get that laying flat. There, and I'll know that's my point I'm going to finish sewing, and I will do exactly the same the other side, and I think it'll be enough just to take that in. So on my regular sewing machine, I'm going to sew with straight stitch. Can't get my teeth around that one. Straight stitch from that point to that point and back down to that point, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side, and that should just take it in enough to look a bit more flattering. Okay, so I've got my sewing machine out. I've got a brother, and I absolutely love this. It's probably about the 4th or 5th machine I've ever had, but I really like this. This has certainly been my favourite so far. I'm just going to have to change the needle, and I am going to put a 70 in, a universal, purely because it's quite fine and I think that will work best. So I'm just going to change the needle and literally do a straight stitch of 2.5mm in a white thread between the points here that I've pinned. Okay, I hope you can see this okay. It's a bit of a dreary day outside. It's been raining all day actually. I'm going to now sew the alteration here at the waist. So I've just put the needle in right at the seam, and I'm going to sew forward. I've got my machine set at 2.5mm on just a straight stitch. I'm literally going to do 3 or 4 stitches forward, do a back stitch back up into that seam. Now I think probably most people would chalk to this point and to follow the chalk line then with the needle, but you know, I sort of do a bit of guesswork, to be honest with you. But there we go. So I'm just gonna sew forward, take that out. Now what I do, I keep my finger there so I know where I'm going. That's it, over that seam. Then I'm going to lift my foot, the one on the machine that is, put that back down, and then I'm going to sew along to the point I've got down here where I've got my pin. There we go, take the pin out, a couple of stitches forward and a few back, lift the needle. I'm going to now do this on the other side and then the dress should be finished.